Hey, Gashrin. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, so I've done a few of these. If you've seen my streams, you may have seen may have watched, may have streamed, may have been on a stream where I've looked at some of the early Dragon magazines. I think I've done uh, issues 1 and 2 and kind of gone through and picked something else. Now, my original intention was to do the exact same thing, basically pick out issue 3 and go through it. What I started to notice was there's some things in some of these issues. Let's just say they haven't aged very well. And I started looking through episode or issue 3, and I thought, oh look, there's an article on women and magic ladies in D&D, and they started to read it and went, no, 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 no. And there were a couple more of those popped up. So I thought what I do instead of just going through and having to either skip over or whatever, just having to deal with that. I would pick out some of the things in some of these early issues that seemed interesting and seemed had to have aged the best in the, look, it's been what these came out, and I'm looking at uh issue 3 came out in October of 1976. So good, what, 40 plus years ago, 40, gosh, 40, I don't know, 46 years ago, something like that. So we can forgive them their trespasses, or just sort of the culture in which they lived and the groups which they were writing for. So we're going to do this. I'm going to be a little bit more tactical with the bits that I read out of there. Now I have pulled up, let's see, issues number 3, 5, 6, and 8. I'm not sure what happened to 7. Did I not find anything in 7? And then we're just going to go through and I'll pick out some bits. We'll read through it, and depending how how long everything takes, we may get through all of them. Maybe we'll get through just a few of them. And then something I'll probably do. I didn't put this as an episodic type episode, but I'm sure we'll do this more often because there's a tons of these early Dragon articles. But that's kind of the idea for this anthology. So without further ado, hey DH. DH said he made it in time. No work meetings and working from home. Awesome. Oh, you like the Barrel Maze video? I appreciate it, DH. Gasher says it's kind of sad that I feel like I need to apologize because times are changing. And that's, yeah, it's just I don't know so much apologize. I mean, it's got to be one of those things that some of these folks who I think are still. I'm not going to turn to it, but let's see, like Women in Magic by Len Lakofka. I think he's still fairly active. He's written some of the better early modules for like basic and the kind of BX set that I'm aware of. I have some of them. But then you just look through this, and there's just sensibilities have shifted. Let's just say that. And I'm sure some people might get on me for kowtowing to that, but it's, look, yeah. As Aaron says, content warning: old fart writers. Yes, there is some of that, but I mean, look, it happened. It happens to everybody, right? Some people probably coming back and saying, look at this old video from 50 years ago with this dude, and look how horrible his things are. Anyhow, let's just get down to it. And we could see, I'm going to put my face over here because I think this article is on this side. I'll zoom in a bit. What I'm concerned what I am concerned with here, I thought we'd look at is birth tables for D&D. And there's a little of, they call, we would not use the term bastard these days, right? Some of it you just can't escape just the ways we looked at things. So I'm sure some people are saying, well, this is in our medieval lands, that's what they call them. Well, fair enough. You might say, I don't know. I don't know what a good term that might fit a medieval fantasy game, but maybe have a little bit less negative connotation. But whatever. You can only do what you can do. Be warned. We might run into some of the stuff that doesn't match up, but we're gonna go with it. DH says the 48 laws of power. Law number 38: think as you like, but behave like others. probably not a bad rule of thumb, actually. At least for a lot of situations, certainly for work, right? If you're in a work situation, probably want to behave as you see others behave. Okay, so this is called Birth Tables for D&D, written by Brad Stock and Brian Lane. This was from Dragon Magazine number 3. So I think I mentioned October, what does it say? October 76, October 1976. Starting a new D&D campaign is sometimes hard on the players. The newly rolled characters just seem to appear out of thin air at the moment they are ready for their first adventure. It is better for both the player and the DM to know about the character's previous knowledge and experience. The player can better know his character, and the DM can set up situations in which a player can use his past experience and skills. Therefore, we have come up with the following birth tables to aid the DM in rolling up new characters for our campaign. Can I just stop there and say that this is amazingly like, hey, give me your backstory? Now, of course, it's interesting because in the context of 1976 D&D, the idea here is not to then send to construct 38 pages of backstory, but the problem is the same that they're trying to solve, right? Hey, I'm a GM. You're coming with a character. There's no context for this character in the world, so let's come up with one. In the modern game, that tends to be, and I joke about 38 pages, but some people write a paragraph or a sentence. Some people will write 38 pages if you let them. But this essentially is that kind of backstory. I don't know, call it problem, right? But it's that the the thing of trying to give context in the world to your player characters. Now, it seems obvious now looking back at this that in the context of 1970s D&D, how do you do that? Is you come up with a bunch of tables and roll on it as opposed to writing up the story yourself. I mean, I think in our case we roll on these tables and then make the connective tissue ourselves. But the what we're trying to do is the same, and this was something that clearly was on people's minds. I mean, it was published in 1976, so who knows how long this person was fiddling around with these ideas before they called it in or submitted it or asked for it. So this is even something from, say, really pretty much the beginnings of the hobby was a situation, an issue, a question that people were trying to solve for. Darren says, Law 49 of power. Don't call your boss a quote-unquote girl drink drunk in front of coworkers. Yeah, that's always a good idea, Terrence. That's a smart law right there. So first up, we have a table, and let's see. This is a D100 table of social class, from commoner, merchant, gentleman, up to noble, and then you get your sibling rank, because presumably there are more than one child in the family, so you're rolling to see kind of which child you are. You roll, and it's from basically first, second, third, fourth, or again, bastard, or however you want to term that. A child from outside of marriage, whatever. On a roll of 1 to 6, 1 on a 6-sided die. So I think after you roll on this table, let's say you rolled 4, so you're second child, then you would roll a d6. If you're d6, you were a second child, but then you were orphaned. And then if you are the first son, then you've got an inheritance. Hold on, let's see. Roll. Player's orphaned. First son receives inheritance. No one receives allowance. Oh, I see. So if you were the second child, you rolled a 1 on a d6. It means your parents died. If you were the first child, you would have received inheritance, but since you're the second child, you receive nothing, and then you don't get an allowance. And we have to remember with these early dragons, some of the layout of this stuff, like I like to try to define terms before throwing them out there. We don't know what allowance is, capital A allowance, but presuming it might be some kind of monthly check, I guess, to use modern terms. You're getting something deposited in the old, I don't know, the old bank or whatever you can go to the bursar's office, pick up some coin. Okay. So having established those things, the first son receives 10% more initial and allowance. And then if you're a bastard, you receive 10% less. DH says government cheese. You have all that government cheese. Now we get social rank. So depending on what you rolled on your table of class, you will roll to see where you stack up. And this then tells you some things about your, I guess this is initial money, allowance, any inheritance, and skills. So, I feel like, this is the thing with, like, every time I look at the ready reference sheets or all these other things, is you always have to do some kind of parsing, since they throw these tables at you and don't tell you a whole lot of what you're supposed to do. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it's down here. Why they put this below the tables and not above it? So initial is the amount of money a player receives at the start. If you happen to be starting and you're above level 1, then you would multiply that by level 1. Allowance is money that the player's family sends each month for the first year, or until the player reaches third level, whichever comes first. So they're going to cut you off once you reach third level. Presumably that's when you are supposed to be self-sufficient, either a month or third level, or a year or third level. And then skills determines how many skills may be chosen. So we're getting skills out of this too. So we get initial, allowance, inheritance. So what's we don't know an inheritance. So I guess inheritance is only, I'm guessing inheritance only comes up if you're orphaned, or presumably, I guess if you wanted to, kill off the family afterwards. Then they might get a check for the inheritance. The best you can do, which ain't bad at all, is 400 gold if you're wealthy. So much better than your 3d6 times 10 gold pieces. Terrence thought that DH wrote gob meat cheese. Sounds like a trail recipe made from goblin parts. Yeah, that does sound like something. That might be something like, I don't know, some orcish food or something. What eats goblins? Maybe there are some people eat goblins. Yeah, gob meat cheese definitely sounds like something made of goblin bits. Doesn't sound too bad either. Better get your glasses on there, Terrence, though. Okay, so now we roll on those. We get, okay, so now we have skills. So we have 3 groups of skills. Hold on a minute. Well, first we have, let's see, we have these designations. They designate skills by letters and groups. A little bit confusing. So skills, the designations are alphabetical: A, B, C, D, E, and F. And then that relates to the groups. A is 1 from group 1, B is 1 from group 1 and group 2, C is 1 from each group, D is 2 from groups 1 and 2, and 1 from group 3. E is 3 from group 1, 2 from groups 2 and 3, and then F is 4 from group 1, 3 from groups 2 and 3. Okay, so we haven't even gotten to what those groups are. But first, or maybe we should do the groups first. Where's groups 1 start? Hold on a minute. Oh, okay, it's kind of at the bottom. They could see, this is what this bugs me. See this little here, you got this hanging chat of group 1. There's probably enough room over here underneath that they could have just put group 1 and started it. You know what I'm saying? And help us out instead of starting off group 1 down here for no good reason. All right, but before we get to theirs, we have this father's occupation. If you're a commoner, you roll on group 1 for the occupation. Merchant, it's group on roll table 2. Gentleman or noble, it's table 3. The number obtained indicates which table under skills should be used for the father's occupation. Okay, so the skills, both for your father's occupation and for stuff that you know. Michael Riggs says, official old fart here. Great to see the old stuff on your show. This dragon even predates my experience. I started in 1980. Yep, absolutely. I was 3 years old when this came out, so I was very much pre my gaming career. Okay, so we also so these skills are both occupations for our dads and also your group. So the kind of skills we've got are vagabond, farmer / serf, tinker, miner, woodsman, sailor, fisherman, craftsman, soldier, and then adventurer, which gets asterisked. What are the asterisks? Adventurers. No player may be an adventurer. This possibility is taken care of under previous experience. For fathers, roll on table 7. All right, so you can't be an adventurer. Group 2, and it's merchant, craftsman, scribe, seaman, slaver, animal trainer, shipwright, master merchant, bird trainer. Again, there's adventurer. Adventurer appears in all 3 tables. And the other one, group 3, is an assassin or spy tracker, sheriff, magistrate, sage, alchemist, kind of your super sort of high-end, either sort of, I don't know, things like, I guess, are there any nobles? Not really out and out nobles, but I guess they'd be noble from their, that would be their station. So I guess you could be a noble biologist, or they would be a noble biologist. DH said these were, yeah, what version of Word were they running? Yeah, no Word. This is all typewritten. So yes, so you have to be, but there's a trick I used to use. I don't know what the Xerox machine situation was, photocopiers. But I used to do this with my friends. You can, cut stuff and move it. I would have definitely cut and moved it to the top, and cut this and just dragged it down a little bit. That would have been what I would have done. But look, yes. Look, even looking at this, this just looks handwritten, even to the point that adventure doesn't quite line up with soldier. It looks like they were trying to space things out, and it's just a slightly offset. They did a better job at this one. Look at this. Astrologer somehow got moved over. See, they're not. No, not all. It's not quite lined up quite right. So yeah, you can definitely see some of this. You know, indie sort of. I mean, these were published, right? But clearly they are working within constrained by equipment and budget. And it's not like if you pick up a Life or Time magazine from 1976, this is what it looks like. But this is, a labor of love, right? DH also says, I've been getting into D&D recently, was playing Modern 5e, then found all this OSR stuff, and I've been really excited to play. Dropped my 5e game and joined a D&D game on Sunday, 25 years later. That's awesome. Oh, you're joining your first game on Sunday, AD&D. Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear how it goes for you. I haven't played in an actual AD&D game in a while. I'd be interested to hear what rules. I'd love to hear about what rules they're using also. Okay, so now we got all that stuff. Then we can roll for crafts if we're a crafts person, or if our father's a crafts person, we could roll. Could be a tailor, smith, fletcher, all that stuff, jeweler, cartographer. Sort of group one. Okay, here, and then they have some italic stuff with some exceptions. One thing I would probably do is, I think, to be fair, right? Because I wouldn't want. See, one of the problems. I don't say problems. One of the things I like about old school playing is that your attributes have very limited effects on your character. It seems like at first level, oh, I'm +1 hit, I'm -1 hit. That seems huge. But over the course of the game, that stuff doesn't tend to matter that much. It affects that thing, and it doesn't blow up and start affecting everything down the line. Whereas in something like 5th edition, people will say, oh, if you start off with if your core stat, if your prerequisite or whatever prime stat is below 16, then you just might as well throw that guy in the trash. And I like that in the OSR that doesn't tend to be the case. So I really like all these things with, rolling and getting all this great information, but I don't want it to have an undue effect on the rest of the game. So I wouldn't want somebody to have rolled really well on this table at the beginning of the game, and suddenly they're like way ahead of everybody else because they have, 8 skills, and the next person has 2 skills. Right. So what I might say is, the less skills you have, the more you are in there. So if we were going to put, let's say, an X in 6 chance on something. So let me give an example here. Maybe this will be clear. So I'm going to say you have your 1 skill. You are a woodsman. Okay. If you were going to come up to me and say in the game and say, hey, I know we're off here in this woods and we're starving, and I see some mushrooms here that are growing on the side of this tree or on this rotting log. I want to see, because I was a woodsman, if I have any experience to be able to really kind of determine if these are mushrooms that are safe to eat or if they're going to kill us or make us horribly sick. And I want to give a roll on this, because you're not in your home. We're not, I might say, well, we're not in your home woods. Well, let's roll to see whether you do. I might say, okay, you only had 1 skill, so I'll give you a 3 and let's say a 3 and 6, even a 4 and 6 chance. If this falls into that you can guess enough of this mushroom to get that general sense, because you only have 1 skill. If you were someone who say, hey, I have 8 skills and woodsman is one of them, I would say you have a 1 in 6 chance. I'll give you a chance, but it's going to be a 1 in 6 chance because your experience is spread out over 8 skills. This other person, that's all they know. So they were a woodsman in their core, while as you were like a dilettante woodsman, because you were very wealthy and sure, you used to go out a little bit, but they kind of took care of you. You didn't really, this wasn't something that you had to live or die on your woodsmanship. So you just don't know as well. And that's maybe how I would just balance things out. Ian says, Intelligence 9 magic user, let's go. Exactly. And then Dave says they love some AD&D. Oh, I love it too. I just haven't had a chance to play it. I mean, the last time I really played it was I was running a paladin in a game, and that was tough. I mean, not being the paladin, the game was tough because I ended up having to be point as a paladin in my heavy armor and clinking around the dungeon, falling into pits and things. Made things quite dicey for a while. That game unfortunately didn't go very far, which is a bummer. And then let's see. So what else have we got here? Then finally, okay, that's nobility. Oh, if we have nobility, we get a title. Could be a knight, all the way up to royalty. If it's royalty, we go to another table. But basically, how close we are to the crown. The best we can get is first cousin. So that's good. So we're nowhere in here can you roll and you're the crown prince. Closest you can get. Actually, no, I'm sorry. On a double aught, you can get immediate family. So you can, but it's super rare, 1 in 100, right? That someone's going to get all. I mean, not even counting all the odds it would take to get here, but after all that, you can be the immediate family. A child in the immediate family is never an orphan. If a player's social rank does not conform to the minimum wealth, it is immediately raised to that level. That's nice. After rolling on table 2, all but those in the immediate family return to table 1 and re-roll, ignoring 96 to 100. Immediately raise the father's title 1 notch from knight to baron, duke to duke. Duke to, oh, I see, because duke can't really go any higher. So, all right. And then father's position. I'm not sure what the numbers are there are for. Oh, I see. I wish they would just kind of write those out. So I guess basically, once you have your father, you're looking for the father's position, it's basically, are they a landowner? And kind of just more some stuff. Are they advisor to the king? Are they an orator? I don't know. I don't know how orator would fit in, but whatever. There's some more stuff. And then under adventurers, you can even roll for what level they were, if they're a commoner, merchant, gentleman, or noble, and then the class. So if you're a commoner, you're either a fighter or a thief. Says something. I mean, that's kind of cool. It does say something about the world, right? That if your dad didn't have any coin on him, he could not have been. I mean, the thief, you might think, well, maybe they could have been something, but definitely they weren't a lettered class, right? They weren't a magic user or a cleric. Someone had to use their letters. There's somebody that's either just fighting or thieving. So that kind of makes sense. If they end up being merchants, then they can be any of the classes, though rarely thieves and magic users, a little bit more, most commonly fighters still, but it could be a cleric. And then if they're a gentleman, I do like this. I like, because it really is telling you something about the world that, hey, if you came out of it as a noble, what might you have been? If you came out as a gentleman, what might you have been? And kind of like, where are these different classes? It almost gives you an idea of where these different classes situate in the world. You could probably actually look at these and say, well, look at the percentages. Commoners, to the extent that they're level at all, are either fighters or thieves. Merchants, there's a 50% chance they're fighters, and then a 1 in 8 chance that they're thieves or magic users, and then a quarter, or 2 in 8, so 1/4% chance they're clerics. Good stuff. And then we've got you can roll for races if they need it. Number of dice rolled. What is this? This is basically if they want to roll a random race. They don't have to, but they can. And this is iced mint tea for the working man that I'm taking a sip of here, a swig. We got races, number of dice rolled. I'm not sure what. Strength, intelligence, wisdom, charisma, dexterity, or constitution, dexterity, charisma. Oh, interesting. So we have essentially species. You're not rolling 3d6 down the line. You're rolling a number of dice for your species. So if you're a half goblin or half orc, I didn't know we had half goblins. Where do half goblins come from? You would roll 3 dice for strength, 2 dice for intelligence, 3 dice for wisdom, 3 dice for constitution, 2 dice for dexterity, and 2 dice for charisma. That's kind of a rough road. You wouldn't even give them. I might split those up. I might give half goblin 4 dice for dex, maybe. I don't know. I guess it depends on what your view of goblins are. If they're like super tricksy, kind of dashing around, diving, dodging, and ducking, or are they? You could probably figure that out. Elves get a nice one. 3 for strength, 3 for intelligence, 4 for wisdom, 3 for constitution, 4 for dex, 4 for charisma. Dwarves don't make out quite as well, but they do get 4 dice for strength and 4 dice for con. Half elves, 4 dice for charisma. Everything else is 3s. Hobbits, 2 dice for strength, but they get 4 for con and 4 for dex. And the humans are 3 across the board. Terrence says, gotta hope the other half of that half goblin is orc. Yep. Pretty much. I might give I would give the half goblins and half orcs a little love. A little love. Everybody else gets some love, but not those half goblins or half orcs. Or I suppose I could just say, well, I'm gonna use the regular 3d6 down the line and F that table. I don't know. Then we get these. Are these minimum attributes? I'm not sure. I guess. I'm wondering, I don't know how they're supposed to work together. I guess we'll have to read the text. Let's see how these are supposed to work. The tables themselves should be self-explanatory. Simply go straight through them, ignoring anything that isn't appropriate. I adjust nobility to the race. I know that in our campaigns, the world is dominated by the humans. Therefore, a non-human cannot be higher than Earl. Either or both. See, the interesting thing about that, just to stop right there, is that kind of presumes that if they're nobility, they have to be noble in the human cultures, right? But I mean, don't we? I mean, don't we presume that there are goblin empires, goblin orc empires, elven empires, hobbit? I mean, hobbits seem to. If you're going by Tolkien, they're kind of Republican, maybe Democratic republics, but or I guess they kind of have some sort of, I don't know what they would be, constitutional. No, I don't know. In any case, I don't know why they couldn't be. It seems like it presumes that what you're rolling here is that there's a kingdom that you're from, and that any of your nobility is in that kingdom, as opposed to, sure, you're a goblin prince, but your kingdom's way out there in the Goblin Mountains, so to speak. Ryan Smith says they just stumbled across the Hexed Press podcast. Is that active these days? It is dormant, but only because I've been too busy to convert video to audio. But I will be picking it back up again. So Brian Smith, subscribe to it, and then you can get your audio copies. I'm terribly behind conversion, but I need to get back to it. So it's kind of on hiatus. It's been more than a summer. I'm on a break, but it's coming back. I either need to figure out how I don't have the monies. Express doesn't make enough money to pay anybody, certainly not somebody other than, doesn't have money to pay me, let alone somebody else. So if I can't get I have to do it myself, basically, all these kinds of conversions for different formats. And so I fall behind because I just run out of time to do them. Yeah, I need to get an intern. Maybe I can, at some point, get something where I can be accredited, actually offer people internships that they would actually want. Maybe my daughter can become my intern. I need to get her trained in audio video technology. Back to the tables. So we just had my thing saying, hey, why can't a goblin be a prince in a goblin empire or anything like that? But whatever. We'll put that aside. Either or both tables under race can be used. We both use table 2. Table 1 has been used, but in the past, a variation of table 2 can be used by substituting 9 to 18 wherever 13 to 18 appears, thereby making it easier to become a non-human. Also, when table 2, not a variant, is used, it may be possible to remove some of the restrictions pertaining to the various races rather than letting any player be an elf and then limit his advancement. Simply limit the number of people who can be elves. This is done by placing the requirements on various features. Anyway, whoever heard of an ugly elf? I'm sure it's got to exist somewhere. I just think, okay, so it's getting very talking around and around and around and around and around. What I would say is I would just say you just roll the dice and what you get. If you're an elf and you have 4 dice in charisma and you still roll an 8, then that's just it. You're an 8. I don't need to worry about, I think if I was going to use that table with changing the amount of dice rolled for whatever your species is, then I would not even bother with then the prerequisites. Right, so stop on down. Interns are us. Yeah, I need to find some interns are us. Okay, what do I got? To those who worry about letting a player start at higher than first level, is a great help in keeping the low-level parties alive. All right. Okay, so I'm going to skip all these. We're already a half hour in, and I'm only on one. Here I thought I was going to do an anthology. Is it going to be an anthology of one thing? All right, so I'm going to, he's got an example. I'm going to skip it. I think we can get the gist of what's going on. I really like the idea here. It's all table-based, which makes sense for the time period we're in, but again, it's trying to answer that age-old question of how does this new character that's come out of nowhere, what is their context? And here we're doing it by rolling on tables, whereas in the modern game, we do it by picking backgrounds and writing backstories. And in some sense, this is really an early attempt at that same kind of background thing. It's a lot more granular, which I think some people like and some people won't like so much. I like that granularity. So you can end up with some interesting things, like someone potentially, small chance, but potentially being the immediate family of ruling royalty somewhere, being in your adventuring party. And of course, if they do get that far, then man, they get a crap ton of money. They get 1,000 gold and an allowance of 100 a month per year or until they're third level. So that certainly changes things in terms of what they can afford. But yeah, this is really cool. So that is birth tables for D&D from, we're in Dragon Magazine issue number 3. I'm going to bounce down because we also have this other part that was in this in this issue that was on some obscure subclasses. Thought this might be cool. The authors of D&D have asked me to stress that none of the following are to be considered official. I feel that for the purposes of the the purpose of the dragon is to provide new ideas and variants, and if printed in the past and will probably print in the future things that I wouldn't let in my own campaign. A great deal of them are superfluous, better handled by the DM. Be that as it may, I would like to urge caution and discretion in allowing the proliferation of weird subclasses. All too often, they only make it harder for the DM, and are often too powerful to use as player characters. In the last the Dragon, the Alchemist was intended to be recommended as a non-player character, as are many of these. This is kind of like the earliest warnings against things like D&D Wiki. But in this case, they're publishing them, even though they don't really like them necessarily, at least certainly not for characters, but they're publishing them because, hey, it's not just their game, it's everybody's game. All right, Smith says, plethora of obscure subclasses would be a fine Reddit thread. It could be a whole subreddit. Our plethora of obscure subclasses. Okay, so this is called, these are healers. Now I want to get to actually some of the, at least one of the other Dragon Magazine issues, so I'm going to kind of just breeze through this. I just want to get the highlights, so to speak. So we got a healer class. So at 4th level, they can detect molds and slimes at 40 feet. That's kind of interesting. 8th level, they can determine types of potions. 12th level, they can read magical and clerical scrolls. 16th level, they can use 4 first-level magic user spells. And at 20th level, they can use 4 second-level magic user spells. So even though they really stopped getting most of their advancement at 10, and they start doing those +1s, they actually still are unlocking stuff all the way up to level 25. I always kind of cap my advancement mostly at that 10. I think 10's a good kind of cap. So I would bump some of these up, maybe make them a little bit less powerful, but maybe bump it up. Maybe call that 20 feet and do it at 2nd level, and then it can increase later. Maybe at 4th level, do that, and then 6, 8, 10, something like that. The Dave asked if there's a link to this. I don't, I got these literally ages and ages ago. I have an ancient Dropbox that I've dropped stuff into. I do not know, the Dave, how these can be gotten hold of by, I guess by legal means. I don't know if you could buy them. I don't know if they have any. They used to sell collections of these on CD-ROM way back when. I have no idea. I can't speak to where I got them from. I've literally been holding on to these for probably over 10 years. I just don't remember. Let's see here. Okay, so we got those levels. We get some spells. I'm guessing these, since they don't unlock magic user spells until late, I'm going to assume these are clerical spells. Oh, they have their own spell list. Never mind. So we get, okay. I'm not going to go through all the healer spells, but they're kind of listing them out. I wonder if there's anything interesting. So this one's a first level healer spell is Detect Phase. A spell to find secreted treasure hidden by out of phase equipment, and parenthetically spells, and to find creatures that are out of phase. Duration 6 turns. I wonder what spells are sending stuff out of phase. I don't know if I've even really seen that before. Creatures that are out of phase, is that stuff that's in the ethereal plane? I mean, what the or would it be in the astral plane? I mean, what in this case is out of phase mean? I'm not sure, but it's kind of interesting. They just sort of throw that in for healers. I don't even know how this fits in with anything else that healers are doing. They just kind of chucked it in there. It's an outlier, but an interesting one. What's cool about this stuff is it kind of gives you a little bit of insight into this person's game, because obviously whoever came up with this uses stuff that's out of phase. Whatever that means in this person's game, treasure being hidden and out of phase, or creatures that are out of phase, is a thing. It is a thing. We also have scribes. I think we can get an idea what scribes are. Scribes are freelance, which is to say they must be sought like any other specialist. The cost for this is the same as for any other specialist. The chance of finding a scribe is 10% per week cumulative, adjustments to be made by the referee based on generosity of offer. When one is located, percentile dice are rolled by the referee to determine their alignment and abilities to be kept in a secret record. So if they're a magical scribe, I guess this is for scribing scrolls and spells. If they're magical or clerical, you roll dice to see what alignments they might be, and then what their abilities are. We also roll, and I guess keep them secret. Get a little ad there for swords and spells. We get samurai. Interesting. This one's got two authors. One by Mike Childers, as modified by Jeff K. So clearly they sent this to the maybe the balance editor. I'm not sure if the editor. We'll read a little bit about this one. A subclass of fighters, these characters may be of any alignment, but tend generally to be neutral. For a character to be a samurai, they must have dexterity. Okay, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. Traditional pair of Japanese swords, great. Composite longbow, also great. Armor will always be such that it will optimize speed and protection, with protection being sacrificed for speed if necessary. Fine. They get a katana. Let's see. If a samurai's katana is taken from him, he will either pursue a vendetta against the thief or their employers or commit seppuku. So I'm guessing in game, you're probably going to go after the thieves. Swords are made in the manner of the Japanese blades are special, though non-magical. Samurai of average intelligence or greater will be able to identify blades of Japanese type manufacture. I mean, given their designs are so different, does he really need that? I mean, they don't look like your Western longsword or broadsword or arming sword or whatever you want to. Let's see if so they get some Japanese blade identification techniques. So the katana got these chances of critical hits, and they also have the same for their short sword, which is that wakizashi. All of these lose one step in the hands of a non-samurai. Okay, so I don't hold on. Hit modifiers and damage. Interesting. Okay, so if I'm reading these tables correctly, encumbrance 50. If I'm reading these tables correctly, and I'm forgetting the encumbrance, I don't care about that really, and I don't care about the gold piece value. But in terms of this automatic to hit, if you have, I'm thinking if you as the wielder have a hit modifier of 0, then if you roll more than 8 above the target, or you roll a 20, you crit. If you have a +3, you only have to hit 5 above the hit number, and it automatically crits on an 18 through 20. So pretty interesting. And then the wakizashi is not quite as good. If you have a +3 modifier, you have to get 7 or more above your target, or on a 19 or 20. I mean, I like that. I could see using this for fighters, but just, I mean, why? I mean, I would just take that out and say, hey, if you make, instead of worrying about a 20, if you just make 8 above your thing or whatever number, some kind of decreasing numbers, then you get to crit. Whenever a samurai scores the necessary number. Oh, interesting. So so basically their crits are working differently. It's not just max damage. So then you roll. So once you've crit, you're going to roll a percentile. You have an 80% chance of just hitting them for 25% of their max hit points, or 6, whichever is greater, and the loss of a limb. So basically you're chopping off a limb. Whoa, that's pretty good. If you roll an 81 to 95, so what, a 14 or 15% chance, you do half their health, or 12, whichever is greater, and a major body hit. You don't do any additional damage other than hit points. And then if you roll a 96 to 100, so a 4 or 5% chance, you kill them. And it's an instant kill. It's basically Vorpal. Your decapitation or other instant kill. Cashman says that Pathfinder 2nd edition uses the roll 10 above target number for a crit. Yeah, something like that makes sense. I do like that it scales down as you level up, which is kind of just another way of showing how you're getting better. But yeah, that still works, because right, if you're a fighter, you're getting to hit is constantly increasing. So even if it was just a flat 10, you're going to be better. I kind of do like something about it actually reducing on both ends. But either way, it's a cool system. This crit thing is pretty powerful for the samurai. I would just probably give that to fighters, but maybe I might I don't know what I would. I don't know what I'd do. Maybe I wonder if there's some way to do it to not have to roll a bunch of dice and do some checks. And there's also some armor grades, different armor classes. The best grade has armor class of 3. And Gasher says, on the other hand, you roll 10 below when you fumble. Yeah, you always got to have some kind of some sort of balance. And then we do get some. I guess this is the longbow, which has some weapon modifiers depending on the armor class, which is interesting. I'm not really sure how to read those exactly, but it seems too complicated. Ryan Smith says there's a text about judo in there too. If you're a samurai, you can use judo when unarmed. Oh yeah, here we go. Yep, a further ability of the samurai's unarmed combat. Present sport of judo closely resembles the knowledge and techniques these fighters had at their disposal. The judo techniques were generally reserved for use against unarmed opponents unless necessity dictated otherwise. Judo may be used by a samurai only if he has no weapon in his hands. When using judo, a hit indicates the opponent has been thrown, and it will take the opponent's 1 or 2 melee turns to recover his feet. Note, this assumes 10-second melee turns adjust accordingly. If a rolling of 19 or 20 is made, the samurai may choose to score 1 to 4 points of damage on the opponent. For 4 levels advanced, the probability of causing damage increases by 5%. So, in the example here, it goes, a 4th level samurai does 1 to 4 points of damage on an 18, 19, or 20. Okay. Intriguing. And then on a roll of 20, a samurai may elect to subdue his opponent for every 6 levels advanced. Okay, you get okay, blah blah blah. Just that probability. Okay, so you get some very simple unarmed combat rules. Again, I would probably just say, instead of calling it judo and making it special as samurai, this would probably be something I would just extend to all fighters. I don't know how great the system is. It kind of makes some sense, and it's got some scaling with level. I don't know, maybe the way it seems like the way grappling works now is it's like a multi-step process. Like first it's grabbed, then maybe you can push or pull, so it takes like multiple rounds. This is just a quick like hooah, and it's done, which I kind of like. It's not all that complicated. I suppose if you wanted to just keep a grab on somebody instead of just kind of pushing them or tossing them, however you want to frame it, that changes things a little bit, but it's not too bad. Smith says they love that as a fighting style or something where a hit equals thrown and dazed or whatever. Yeah, I could see that. And yeah, like I said, I would just give that to fighters. Okay. So I did want to see this one as a new view of dwarves. This magazine, this issue actually has quite a few good stuff. It's just that Women in Magic I didn't want to touch. Women and Magic ladies. Yeah. If you end up getting a hold of Dragon issue 3, check out just for history purposes. Check out Women and Magic Ladies. It's definitely interesting. So this is a view of dwarves. This is by Larry Smith. Contrary to public opinion, dwarves are not the poor fighters that many claim they are. And reading from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Gimli proved the fact that he was just as good a fighter as anyone else. Playing D&D, dwarves are given the role of keeping an eye out for traps and slanting passages. Fighting is placed into the secondary role. But what are the other things that dwarves could do? In D&D, little or no guideline is given for the dwarves' other uses. This article is here as an attempt to bring the dwarves once more into the proper perspective that they deserve. So we get leveling for dwarves. And then let's see, what's this over here? 70 plus. Oh, I see. You have to become a dwarf king, you have to have 18 strength plus 12 plus intelligence plus or 18 strength, 18 or more strength, or 18 strength. You need to have at least intelligence 12 and at least wisdom of 12. Yeah, I don't know. There's not very many ways we don't have any ASIs in the system, so that's kind of rough. You got to go find all those magic pools and hope you drink the right ones that let you and roll the right dice to get you some increases, presumably. And this is very Tolkien based, as we're talking about the kind of 7 families of dwarves. You can only have 7 dwarf kings. Dwarves as clerics. Since, according to Greyhawk, there can be dwarf clerics, players should be allowed the option to become one. If the character has a wisdom of 15 plus, he may opt to be a cleric. 17 wisdom will allow the character to go to 7th level, as an 18 will allow him to go to 8th level. As being dwarves, they have all the benefits and restrictions of both cleric and dwarf. They roll an 8-sided die when rolling for points. I think hit points is maybe what they're talking about. Dwarves as thieves, same as Greyhawk, except for their hit dice. Dwarves as magicians, above is not allowed. Why? I don't know why you would let, so they can become clerics or thieves. Probably because of the Tolkien thing. Because we see that the dwarves, in essence, when they go back to Erebor, the Lonely Mountain, are kind of in a thieving sort of aspect. They're skulking around, sneaking. And I don't know, we don't see any dwarf clerics in Lord of the Rings, but I guess they feel like that maybe is okay. But I guess since we definitely don't see dwarf magicians, assassins, monks, or illusionists, but I would say why not? Ryan Smith says, funny how they say dwarves are good fighters is proven by Tolkien. Never mind your own idea of these fantastical critters. Yeah. Yep. That's true. The abilities of dwarves. They list off how many of these? A bunch. I don't know if we're supposed to say that they have all of these. I guess so. I'm not going to read all these because there's a whole ton of them. But you get stuff like, hey, they can, if they have an intelligence of 9 or better and strength of 9 or better, they can do some smithery. They have 12 or better int, they can do intelligence, they can do armor's work. They have a 15 or more, they can do engineering. So this I would just say, why not come up with just some dwarven skills? I kind of, this is that thing. I noticed this a little, this occurred to me with that carcass crawler a little bit too. When they gave all these things like, look, we're all going to use thieves D100 skills to make these different classes. And then they show, oh, but here's an alternate way of using thieves skills with D6s. But I'm only go, why not have that for the other ones too? Like, you're just like, the articles. Well, I mean, in Carcass Crawl and in Bolt Dragon, it makes sense. The articles are written by different people and they're just kind of cobbled together. But this one, you did this whole thing on like births in D&D. And here you have dwarves. Could have combined these things together a bit. But, I get it. They're different people writing them. But it seems like I would take ideas from this and ideas from that and kind of merge them together. Tanner says, how come Tolkien never had multi-class dwarf warlock paladins? It's a huge oversight. We don't see too much of dwarf society, so we don't know, Terrence. They just might not have come out of Lonely Mountain. They might have just hung close to home. So we get some dwarves reactions. They automatically attack goblins and orcs, and then they don't like elves and men. They kind of don't like anybody else. Well, Noldor elves. Oh, this is straight Tolkien. They're kind of neutral on Noldor, and you're kind of high elves and hobbits. Dwarves of a different folk than them, they're +1, and same folk, they're +2. So there you go about dwarves. We now go to the Berserker. This new class is highly experimental. Although the requirements appear low, only the boys in the 16+ club are likely to do well at this. Be warned. The boys in the 16+ club. What a goofy turn of phrase. Okay, let's read a little bit about this. Berserkers are a subclass of the fighting man who are human and neutral. Both their strength and constitution must be better than 9, while their intelligence must be below 9. At level 1, their maximum armor class is 6. They can use any magical items available to fighters with the exception of armor and shields. In addition to any experience bonus for strength, Berserkers receive double points for kills until they earn their wear shape. Berserkers may never develop psychic powers. So this is kind of coming from this concept, I believe, from Old English, that I think there's some, I think it's not completely agreed upon, but I think that like Berserker is from like bear shirt. This idea that they wore like skins of animals. I think there's an alternate translation or alternate idea that it could be something else, but they would like taking, so this concept of sort of berserkers wearing sort of the skins of animals, taking on in combat basically they become like the bear. I think, but there might be another translation. I think that's where this is kind of coming from. So this, they break it off in different clans. You can be a berserker of a type of were-rat, werewolf, were-boar, were-tiger, or were-bear, and they advance differently depending on which clan. They also gain their wear shape at different levels. You got to get all the way up to 10th level. For that, they gain followers different levels. They get, I guess that was max hit dice, that thing, and then what level they become a clan master. We do get a list of, so their special abilities. Level 1, they're not allowed to hire anyone for anything. But they can recognize alignment and clan of lycanthropes and berserkers on sight. That's kind of cool. Level 4, they reduce the chance of being surprised by 1. Level 6, they can detect hidden and invisible enemies. They gain a 4th level companion who may be any neutral fighter type or a bard. Makes sense for singing their praises. And then level 10, they can hire others, but such hirelings are -2 on loyalty and may never have a rating higher than 15. I think that rating, is that rating in their loyalty rating, or is that their rating like their attributes? I'm going to guess maybe loyalty. At the appropriate level, the berserker will be joined by 2 to 12 followers with a loyalty of 16 plus. Yep, so I was right. One of whom must be a bard of level 3 or 6. If killed, these followers may never be replaced. And we get a table for that. Berserking, there's only a chance of a character berserking when the referee deems the conditions are suitable for the arousal of battle lust. The arousal of battle lust. The basic chance is 10% for a character to go berserk. A berserk attack may only be triggered once per melee. You can add 20% if the berserker bites their shield, which is voluntary. And you add 10% for each round of melee. That's cumulative. Add 10% per follower or shield brother he sees die. That's kind of rough. And the death of a companion causes an automatic berserk. So what happens when they berserk? The advantage is intelligent opponents are going to check their morale if applicable, but a Balrog doesn't. I guess a Balrog doesn't count as an intelligent opponent. That's interesting. And I guess this is written when they were still putting out the white box with Balrogs and literal Tolkien beasties. If you don't know, at the very beginning, I should pull out my white box at one point because I actually, my white box copy is sort of an amalgamation of different printings, but I got the printing of at least the, whichever one of the monsters that still has the direct, and this is also, I think, in the first monster manual as well, so I guess it makes sense, has the Tolkien bestiary basically by name. And then I don't know if the Tolkien estate sued them or whatever, but then they took around. So then Balrogs became, what are they called now? Baelors, Ents became Trants, that sort of thing. So at the time of this, they still were using Balrog. Okay, so intelligent opponents have to check morale. All attacks are at +2. Berserkers immune to psionic attacks anyway, and they add 6 to their level or key check. I'm not sure what that means if they're wielding a magic sword. And then the disadvantages is you can't withdraw from melee while you're berserk. And a berserker remains berserk for as many melee rounds as he has constitution points. But attacks at -2/-2. Maybe is that melee? I don't know what that means. -2/-2. If in wear shape, he will maintain it for the duration of melee. If still berserk at the end of the melee, he has a 10% chance of turning on his friends until killed or the fit wears off. Deduct 1% per level to a minimum of 1%, 0% for clan masters. The berserker must rest a complete turn after each fit. Then we have an example. So here we get, I'm not going to go through the example just because I want to try to, I meant to go through multiple issues, or at least 2, and I'm not even getting through 1. The idiot class. Yes, you too can be an idiot in D&D. If you thought about just saying, man, you're an idiot, they might just be one. This is by Gordon Davidson. An idiot is obtained by paying 160 gold pieces at the beginning of the game or at a city. If one is present, 50% chance. Player also has the opportunity to buy a midget. I should have probably pre-read this. I don't want to get into. All right, I'm going to skip over the midget part. The idiots. I don't know. What is the correct term now? I don't even know. But I'm guessing that regardless of even if midget is a correct term, I'm guessing this is not really the context that they would appreciate. So apologies for that. The idiot's purpose is to confuse the enemy so that it will run away, attack a wall, commit harikari, eat all its treasure, or some related act, just so it will not attack the troop. Confusion lasts 3 melee turns. There's a 50% chance that the confused monster will attack anyhow. We have a chance of being confused. Oh, I don't know where the heck did they get this table from? This is clearly cut. See, when I was talking about like cutting, pasting, and the photocopies, Clearly that was done with this table because it is not at all the same style of anything else. It's oh. All right, I'm just gonna skip. I'm not even gonna read. Okay, the levels are kind of funny. A level zero idiot is a dummy, and then their level titles are from dummy to dope to dolt to dullard to cluck to klutz to cretin to weirdo to nut to fool to imbecile, and then finally an idiot. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna skip jesters. Oh, laughing gas pit balls. Come on, pies. This is definitely, if you want to play a goofy, gonzo-y kind of game, I suppose the Jester might just be the truth. It says they're a level 7 weirdo. Yeah. All right. We're going to go on now to Dragon Magazine, Dragon issue 5 for the last few minutes that we have. This seems to be mostly on Metamorphosis Alpha, which is probably worth a look on its own. I think, not that I originally was thinking, oh, I could read the Metamorphosis Alpha stuff. And then I thought I should probably do some reading on the actual rules of Metamorphosis Alpha, and then we can come back maybe to articles about Metamorphosis Alpha. Ovaltine Patrol. Hey, Ovaltine Patrol says, I made a Dumble F a-hole class for my Gonzo Idiocracy flavored science fantasy setting. They're a fighter type with a special ability, too stupid to die. Yeah, I like it. All right, so let's look at this wizard research rules. This seems like it might be fruitful. This was written by Charles Preston Goforth Jr. The following rules are designed to supplement the research rules found in Men and Magic. That's from the white box at 6 to 7, and the Dragon Volume 1, number 2, also from 1976 at 29. These rules have been play tested in the quote, the Kingdom of Blake, unquote, game at the Historical Simulation Society in Charlottesville. I wonder if they're still around. Charlottesville, Virginia, for over a year, real time, or over 9 years game time. That's important. Not just how much real time they spent, but also game time. Okay, so 1, new spells not found in existing rules, or spells which are initially unknown due to the quote unquote intelligence rules set out in Greyhawk. I think that's another page at. I don't think I've seen that before. They say at for the pages instead of just saying page or P period. Set on Greyhawk may be researched by any level magic user, cleric, or healer at the following cost. So you have to invest some gold, spend some time, and then you get a chance of success. I guess if you spend 10 grand, you just get it automatically. That's cool. So if you could spend 5 million gold, you can auto learn a spell of 10th level. A magic user, cleric, or healer doing research on this chart may only do research at those spell levels in which they possess spells due to level and experience points. So you can't learn a 10th level spell if you're first level, even if you have 5 million gold pieces. Let's see. And then, okay, so that was number 1. 2, a spell to permanently increase 1 stat: strength, intelligence, wisdom, dex, con, charisma, beauty, or beauty. Oh yeah, that's beauty. Yeah, we'll skip beauty. And to have that stat treated in every way as if it had been initially rolled up at that high level may be researched from the following chart. However, the spell may only be used once per stat, per character, including all clones. These spells may not be combined between different magic users or by the same magic user throwing the spell twice, or throwing different spells designed to raise the same stat to increase the same character's specific stat more than once. I don't know that I would have that spell. I don't think I want my guys having a spell necessarily that everyone increase their, because they wouldn't you use it on everybody? Cast it multiple times so everyone will raise their strength up 1, everyone will raise their dex up 1. I think I would pass on that one. But this has been tested by 1 year real time, 9 years game time. Okay, we do have the levels and the stats. Yeah, I don't think I would do that. Wow, 1 to 12. 18th level? Is that right? 18th level? So how does that work in the spell list? They don't go up past 10. I guess you just keep multiplying out. There's probably some mathiness here that you could follow. I'm guessing. Yeah, it seems like it's all. Yeah, there's a pattern here. All right, so you just Follow the pattern. 3. Only wizards, patriarchs, witches, and matriarchs may create or change magic items through research. Normal research involves making or changing the magic item over a period of time while the item is placed inside of a magic furnace. It is necessary to throw gold pieces or other items of value into the furnace during the research. Not place, throw, chuck, hurl. I could just see someone like throwing gold pieces in the furnace. How about we be a little bit more sensible and maybe shovel from a pile, use a tool, pour gently, not throw. We're civilized magicians here. Ovaltine Patrol says, could restrict the spell so it's only able to work on a specific person, having to research anew for each person. Kind of like knowing their true name doesn't work on others. Yeah, I don't know. I think I suppose you could. But I think the issue you see, and again, this is going to be very game specific, is your party runs into a boatload of gold, so they decide to sit around for a few months and just power each other up. I don't know. I think for that, I would rather they go out and find stuff and let that be the boon. I would rather, let's say, go find the boons of certain creatures who can do it for you and not have them do it themselves. That's just me. But hey, I think it makes sense. Get the true name of somebody, research the spell. Presumably you have stuff going on in your campaign, so they can't just spend a year just sitting around amping up each other's stats. But like I said before, one of the things I like about these old school games is that your attributes aren't all that determining. They don't determine that much for you. Give you a little bump or make it a little bit harder, but then they kind of stop, and everything else is based on your class level. So I would rather just keep playing into that and not into something that's going to start kind of an arms race of your attribute levels. But I'm not opposed to your idea, Ovaltine Patrol. Any weapon, shield, armor, or indeed anything else can be enchanted +1 in 2 months for 2,000 gold. I mean, that's kind of cool. This is where I would want to work it in with other things. Like, hey, those dwarves that are smiths, well, you got to find one of them, and you can work together, much like, Celebrimbor and the dwarves in the Second Age sort of thing. That's a kind of Tolkien reference. Serious enchanting is the process by which, this is serious enchanting, is the process by which weapons, shields, and armor above +1 can be produced. Serious enchanting requires 10 months and the investment of 10,000 gold pieces. When seriously enchanting a weapon, this is no joke enchantment, folks. Not for amateurs. Do not try this at home. This is serious enchanting. When seriously enchanting a weapon of any type, use the rules for determining swords found in Monsters and Treasure, and that's from the White Box, and Greyhawk, which is the supplement to the White Box. Let's substitute the following table for the table in Greyhawk. And then we get a whole bunch of stuff. Could be cursed, get +1, +3. Ooh, weapon of slaying, all kinds of options. Wow. See, this one they updated to fit the stuff in the art in the last, or at least the last this is Dragon Magazine 5. We saw healers, samurai, idiots, and jesters in Dragon Magazine. What was that, 3 where we just were? Yes, 3. And here you can see that they have cleverly written that in here. So you roll a 60, you can get a +1 weapon that is +5 versus healers, samurais, idiots, and jesters. So there you go. Redcaps, hey Redcap says, how awesome is it going through these old mags? I spent the majority of the weekend a couple of weeks ago going through a cache of White Dwarf and other mags. It's been fun, Redcaps. It's been fun. I mean, there's definitely some stuff that it's kind of interesting to read it historically, but not stuff that I would want to propagate, like the like in issue 3, women and magic ladies. I don't think that's something I would want to bring back. There probably is a germ of good ideas and some things in there, but it's just a bunch of stuff that just doesn't work. But then you run into stuff like this, which is interesting, and the stuff about the dwarves, which is interesting, and the stuff about some of the classes and other things that have been a lot of fun. I really think that you can mine gold out of here. You just have to kind of be particular, not necessarily pull things out and just drop it in, but kind of, reinterpret. That might be the next step with some of these, is go back and kind of take some of these great ideas, but just kind of reinterpret them with some of our modern, our kind of modern OSR. That's not exactly old school, but sort of old school idealized in a certain way. Is that all for the rerolls, or we have more? And we have the table keeps going. If a curse or a purpose is rolled up, the person doing the research may name and define it. When seriously enchanting armor, only serious enchanting. And if you're chanting it just for kicks, then it's no go. You use a table that's in Greyhawk, and they give you the page reference. Spell embedment. Embedment? Spell embedment is the process which the researcher can use to embed, place any spell which they know in an enchanted object at the same cost as learning that spell through research. Go back to rule number 1. Already enchanted objects may not be re-enchanted, but you can embed new spells in them, and you can also remove spells. And then we are pointed to rules for the manufacture of scrolls in Men and Magic, and rules for the manufacture of poisons that are in the Dragon number 2. Redcap says, yeah, some of the stuff doesn't age well, but I really enjoyed looking at the advertisements /classified/letters of the editor sections in them. Really shows how many of the things we talk about today were also hot topics back then. There are more things change, the more they stay the same. Yeah, I agree, Redcaps. And when I looked at a little bit earlier in the stream, which you go back, if you missed that part, you can go back and check it out at your leisure. The kind of birth tables is it was addressing the same issues that people address now with backstories and backgrounds and things like that, which is giving characters context, giving newly rolled up characters context in the games. It's just interesting because the same issue is there, but the approach to solving it is a fair bit different. Okay, a researcher may enchant a duplicate of any magic item except scrolls, potions, rings containing spells, wands, weapons, shields, and armor. List of, I know, they just say, hey, you can any item except, and it seems like they rattled off every type of magic item pretty much. But you can duplicate staves and rods, gauntlets, bracers, and cloaks. Rings other than rings containing spells may be duplicated. Okay, enchanting rings and wands. All right, I know I'm cognizant of the time, so that's why I'm kind of breezing through here. Ooh, what's true ring making? Oh, here it is, the one ring. True ring making costs 10,000 gold and 10 months and 300,000 experience points. This ring controls all rings which are either made by the wizard who made the true ring or physically touched the true ring. Oh, there you go. I mean, so if you want to be Sauron, there it is, number 13. Just go to number 13. That's your Sauron. Sauron, the one ring right there. Wizard blade making. What the heck is that? Give the wizard a blade. I know I like to say variations of give X the Y. That's from Lynch's Dune. It's at the end of the movie. Basically, what's his name is the Kwisatz Haderach, and Sting is now going to challenge him, and or something, and what's his name says, give the Harkonnen a blade. So that's why give the wizard a blade. And then the Emperor says he can fight with my blade if he chooses. I love the Lynch Dune movie. I know it's not good. I know that it's, in many ways, it's awful, but I love it. I love it. Unabashedly, I am not ashamed of my love for that movie. The wizard may name the blade's level, +6 to -6, and roll one 8-sided die and choose that many properties from the following list. Flaming, with a purpose, with another purpose, with a vorpal blade, with a curse, with another curse, of life draining, of sharpness, holy, dancing, of disruption. Sword may be used by any magic user or fighter or druid, or if and only if holy, a lawful cleric. The sword will necessarily be the same alignment as the maker. It may only be destroyed in the fire of its creation. Kind of also one ring like. Larger rolls for properties. Okay, you get some more. A wizard blade. A wizard blade is interesting. Yeah, with a purpose. I'm not sure where that comes from. They don't actually say what it means. It just says, hey, if you roll up a purpose, you get to describe it. It says maybe it's in Greyhawk. I don't have my white box that has Greyhawk in it in front of me. Otherwise, I would look it up. So I don't recall. Oh, and it says maybe it's too intelligent. I don't know. I'll have to do some research on that. If someone else watching this later figures out what the purpose means before I get around to it, post it in the comments. Otherwise, I'll try to look it up and find it. Smith says maybe it's a spelling error. It's with a porpoise. Could be. Let's see. Rules 13-14 represent the ultimate enchantments. The creation of the Eldritch Wizardly class item by the player character. These are weapons forged by more powerful forces and express purpose. Again, using purpose. Okay, and then you get drained. The experience points go into the work. Guesswork, number 16. Wizard may tell the games master how much money, time, and experience he has invested. The games master will then tell the player what he has ended up with. I'm surprised they didn't correct that to game master thing or DM, since they've been using that already. A wizard up against the wall is a foe indeed, and this power born of desperation is reflected by the sorcerer's memorial enchantment in distress rules. I don't know where that's from. These rules allow a wizard or other, whatever, to create any magic item without any expenditure of time or money. The wizard holds the item to be enchanted, speaks the power word of distress, and bends his strength to the enchantment. Often the blood flows from his hands. Always he rolls 1 8-sided die for hits. These are magical distress hits. They cannot be cured by time or by healing spells. These hits can only be removed if the wizard spends twice the amount of time and gold which would have been required to create the item normally on a complete rest. Wizard blades and true rings may be created by this method. Since the wizard has the experience points at hand, there is no additional experience points cost to make up in rest. I have really no idea what they're really talking about there. I might have to reread that. But I don't know. So it's supposed to continue on page 28. Dragon wasn't okay. Where are we? Research. Here we go. Number 18, a wizard, witch, or so on forth can embed spells in distress. The wizard simply speaks the power word of distress and drains one or more of his spells into the magic item. The item gains, and the wizard loses the spell. Of course, the wizard can always relearn the spell or pick up another to replace it using rule 1. A wizard blade or true ring has an intelligence equal to the higher of 1, the prime stat of its creator, or 2, the number of levels that its creator lost as a result of its creation. The wizard blade or the true ring has an ego equal to its intelligence. So no, purpose is not intelligence, it's separate. Red Cap says that purpose likely means personality of the blade and what it wants to accomplish. Yeah, something like that. Certainly, I would say what it wants to accomplish. Then finally, any player character may sacrifice magic items to his or her gods in hopes that the god will reward him with aid, increase experience, or perhaps increase stats. There you go. See, this is what I would do. Instead of just getting stats from a spell, I would say that you could sacrifice a magic item, but I would have to say it couldn't be a magic item that you made. You can't get into business cranking out items to get increased stats or the like. But I could see it working if you found something. Magic item is consumed by the god and removed from the game. The gods may not answer, but this is a great way to keep your magic items out of enemy hands. I guess. Yes, I guess just tossing them into a void, dropping them into a deep ocean would also be ways to get them out of enemy hands. Throwing them in volcanoes, chucking them into portals to other dimensions. These would all work. Oh, that's kind of good. I mean, I would at least have give me a table. Nothing. Well, let's have to figure that out ourselves. All right, folks, I know I am over time, but we looked at I got a couple issues of Dragon. We looked at Dragon issues 3 and 5 and found some, I think, really interesting things in there. I would love to see if some folks, I will definitely try to do this too when I have time, which is never, but try to get in and see what we can make. Because there are some really good thoughts in here. Stuff that's kind of not been lost, but just been obscured by the fog of time. It could be brought forth, tweaked, given a little modern touch. And maybe it would find some applicability in our modern OSR, modern old school gaming community. But it was a fun look. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you could give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you found yourself in here and you're not subscribing, you feel like subscribing to the channel, that would also be awesome. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.